The message came on a Tuesday. It rippled through every screen on Earth at once. Scientists at the Global Space Agency stared at their monitors in shock as strange symbols flashed across their displays. After decades of sending signals into space, someone had finally answered. Lisa Winters hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned as she fed the alien patterns into her translation algorithms. As the world's top xenolinguist, everyone looked to her for answers. Her small office at the GSA headquarters in Geneva was now crowded with military officers and government officials. "I need quiet," she said, not looking up from her screen. The room fell silent. Only the soft hum of computers remained. 3 days later, Lisa had her breakthrough. "It's a greeting," she announced to the emergency United Nations session. "They call themselves the Galactic Concordat. They want to meet us." Captain Alexander Mason stood at attention as the president delivered the news. He had been chosen to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission to meet the aliens. At 42, Mason had commanded the lunar base for 5 years. His calm judgment and quick thinking had saved his crew during the oxygen crisis of 2065. Now he would represent Earth. "The fate of our species may depend on this meeting," the president told him. "No pressure, Captain." Mason almost smiled. "No pressure at all, sir." The UESC Horizon, Earth's newest spacecraft, was prepared for the mission. Its normal crew of 12 was reduced to make room for specialists. Lisa Winters joined as communications expert. Lieutenant Noah Carter, a brilliant tactical officer with a photographic memory, would handle security. Dr. Olivia Reyes, whose work in biology had won her 3 Nobel Prizes, would assess the aliens' technology and biology. They would meet the aliens at a point beyond Mars' orbit. The journey would take 3 weeks. "I never thought I'd be part of first contact," Lieutenant Carter said as they left Earth orbit. He was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "None of us did," Mason replied. "Our job is to learn what they want and protect Earth's interests." On the 22nd day, they saw the alien ship. It dwarfed the horizon, gleaming like liquid metal in the sunlight. Lisa's translation system crackled with incoming messages. "They're guiding us to a docking port," she said. "They're being polite." Mason nodded. "Let's hope they stay that way." The alien who greeted them stood nearly 7 feet tall. Its skin shimmered with a faint blue light. 4 arms emerged from a narrow torso. Its face featured 3 large eyes arranged in a triangle. "I am High Chancellor Zixboon of the Galactic Concordat," the alien said through Lisa's translator. "We welcome humans to the greater community of intelligent life." For 6 hours, they talked in a large chamber inside the alien vessel. The High Chancellor explained that thousands of civilizations existed across the galaxy, united in peaceful cooperation. Earth was invited to join this community. But there was a catch. "Your species is considered juvenile," Zixboon explained. "All new members undergo an observation period. For Earth, this will last 100 years. Mason kept his expression neutral despite his disappointment. "And during this time, limited technology exchange, controlled cultural contact, no independent space travel beyond your solar system." Later, back on the horizon, the team discussed what they had learned. "They're treating us like children," Carter complained. "Maybe we are, compared to them," Dr. Reyes countered. "Their medical technology alone is centuries beyond ours." Mason shared Carter's unease. Did anyone else notice how they avoided certain questions? About their military? About their resource needs? While the others slept, Carter reviewed the security recordings. Something caught his eye. A brief exchange between 2 aliens when they thought no humans were watching. He enhanced the audio and ran it through Lisa's translation program. The words made his blood run cold. He immediately went to Mason's quarters. "Captain, you need to see this." Carter's voice was tight. "I don't think the Concordat is being honest with us." Mason watched the recording. The 2 aliens spoke quickly. "The humans have no idea what's coming," one said. "The Varkans will never allow them full membership." They'll be lucky if their world isn't classified as a resource deposit, the other replied. Mason's jaw tightened. So that's how it is. They had made first contact, but already Mason sensed trouble. Earth had just stepped onto a larger stage, one where not everyone welcomed its arrival. 5 years had passed since first contact. Earth had changed. Alien technology, even the limited kind shared by the Concordat, had transformed medicine. People who once faced death now lived. Energy problems that plagued humanity for centuries vanished with new power systems. Dr. Olivia Rice studied a sample under her microscope. The alien cell structure still amazed her. As head of Earth's science exchange program, she led the effort to understand Concordat technology. Dr. Rice, they're here, her assistant said from the doorway. Olivia sighed. The assessment team had arrived. According to Concordat rules, all juvenile species underwent regular evaluations. This determined how much technology they could receive and how much freedom they could have in space. This was Earth's first major assessment. Commander Samantha Peters waited at the landing pad as the alien shuttle descended. At 35, Peters had risen quickly through military ranks after serving with distinction in the Mars Defense Force. Now she was Earth's military liaison to the Concordat. The shuttle door opened. 5 aliens emerged. 4 were the now familiar blue-skinned Jaxiri like High Chancellor Zick Spoon. But the leader was different. Tall and reptilian with red scales and yellow eyes. I am Grand Inquisitor Krelfar of the Vargan Dominion, the reptilian alien announced. I will lead this assessment. Peters felt immediate unease. In 5 years of contact, humans had learned that the Concordat consisted of many species. The Jaxiri were friendly, but others, like the Vargans, had a reputation for harshness. Welcome to Earth, Peters said with a forced smile. We've prepared facilities for your work. Krelfar's yellow eyes narrowed. We will begin immediately. Your species has advanced quickly, perhaps too quickly. Over the next weeks, the assessment team visited major cities, military bases, and research centers. They asked endless questions. They took samples of everything. They watched humans at work and play. Krelfar seemed to find fault with everything. Your species is aggressive, he told the United Nations Council. Your history is filled with war. Your entertainment glorifies violence. Your children play at conquest. Captain Mason, now promoted to admiral, sat in the back of the chamber. He leaned toward Peters. He's building a case against us. Peters nodded. But why? That night, Peters received a message from an unknown source. It contained coordinates and a time. Against regulations, she went alone. In a dark corner of a Geneva park, she met a Jaxiri from the assessment team. He looked nervous, his blue skin almost gray with fear. I risk much by speaking to you, the alien whispered. Krelfar does not plan a fair assessment. The Vargans want Earth classified as a resource world. What does that mean? Peters asked. It means your people would have no rights. Your planet's resources would belong to the Concordat, mainly to the Vargans. Peters felt cold despite the warm night. Why tell me this? Not all of us agree with this corruption. The Concordat was founded on principles of growth and cooperation, not exploitation. The Jaxiri looked over his shoulder. I must go. Peters reported everything to Admiral Mason. Together they took their concerns to the Global Defense Council. We need proof, the council president said. Without it, any accusation could damage our relationship with the entire Concordat. Mason nodded. I have an idea. Dr. Rice has been tracking unusual signals from Mars. If the Vargans are planning something, they might already be operating in our system. 2 days later, Mason boarded his ship, the UESC Defiant. With a small crew including Lieutenant Carter, now his second in command, they set course for Mars under the cover of a routine patrol. What they found changed everything. Hidden on the far side of the planet was an operation that was definitely not approved. Mining equipment, Vargan ships, Workers extracting rare minerals. Take pictures of everything, Mason ordered. We need evidence. As they watched, Carter pointed to a large structure. Sir, I think that's a weapons platform. Mason frowned. They're not just assessing us. They're preparing for something. The Defiant moved closer. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. We're being targeted, Carter shouted. The first shot missed. The second didn't. As the Defiant limped back toward Earth, trailing debris, Mason knew the truth. The assessment was a sham. Earth wasn't being evaluated. It was being invaded. The news spread quickly. The UESC Defiant limped back to Earth orbit, damaged but not defeated. Admiral Mason's evidence of the Vargan mining operation on Mars shocked world leaders. But before Earth could respond, the Concordat made its move. Grand Inquisitor Krell Thar presented his assessment to the Inner Council of the Galactic Concordat. His report described humans as aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous to galactic stability. The human military attacked our research facility on Mars, Krell Thar lied to the Council. This proves their violent nature. Within days, the Concordat announced its decision. Earth would be placed under protective quarantine. No ships could leave the solar system. All alien technology exchange would stop. Any human vessel traveling beyond Mars would be considered hostile. Earth was trapped. Admiral Mason stood before the Global Defense Council, his face grim. They've boxed us in while they prepare for something bigger. Can we fight back? Asked the Council President. Not directly, Mason replied. Their ships outclass ours in every way. But we do have one advantage. They underestimate us. Commander Peters studied the images from Mars again. These mining operations violate the Concordat's own laws. They're stealing our resources while pretending to protect the galaxy from us. Dr. Olivia Reyes had barely left her lab in 3 days. She had made a discovery that might explain the Vargan's true interest in Earth. Look at these cellular adaptation rates, she explained to Mason and Peters. Human DNA can absorb and integrate beneficial changes faster than any species in the Concordat database. What does that mean? Peters asked. It means we evolve and adapt faster. We learn faster. Given enough time with their technology, we might surpass them. Reyes adjusted her glasses. That terrifies them. Lieutenant Carter entered the room with new intelligence. Sir, we've intercepted communications. The quarantine is just phase 1. They're planning to declare Earth a protectorate, which gives them legal right to all our resources. Mason's jaw tightened. How long? 1 year, maybe less. That night, Earth's leaders made their decision. They would not go quietly. The quarantine had one benefit. It gave them time to prepare while the Concordat fought them contained. Over the next month, every factory on Earth shifted to building ships and weapons based on what they had learned from alien technology. Scientists worked around the clock to reverse engineer Concordat systems. Military personnel trained on new equipment. Mason now commanded Earth's growing defense fleet from the newly completed space station in lunar orbit. From here, they could monitor Vargan movements without being detected. They've established bases on 3 of Jupiter's moons, Carter reported during a strategy meeting. And the mining operation on Mars has tripled in size. Peters pointed to another section of the tactical display. They're bringing in more ships. I count at least 30 new vessels in the outer system. Mason studied the display. They're preparing for full occupation. Once those forces are in position, they'll move on Earth directly. Dr. Reyes entered the command center with exciting news. We've made a breakthrough with the propulsion systems. Our new engines are nearly as fast as theirs now. And weapons? Mason asked. Getting closer, but still not equal. Mason nodded. They would need every advantage they could find. It's time for a test. Lieutenant Carter, prepare the Vindication for launch. The UESD Defiant had been rebuilt and renamed Vindication. Equipped with the best technology Earth could produce, it was now a match for smaller Concordat vessels. What's the mission, sir? Carter asked. We need intelligence. And we need to show them we're not as helpless as they think. Mason stood. We're going to capture one of their command ships. Peters looked concerned. That's incredibly risky. Yes, Mason agreed. But if we succeed, we'll gain access to their tactical systems and communication codes. We need to know their full plans. 3 days later, the Vindication slipped out of lunar orbit, invisible to Concordat sensors thanks to Dr. Ray's new stealth system. Their target, a Vargan command vessel directing mining operations on Mars. As they approached the red planet, Mason addressed his crew. What we do here may determine Earth's future. They think they've caged us. Time to show them that humans don't cage well. The Vindication's mission was a success beyond all expectations. Using the stealth technology developed by Dr. Reyes, they had approached the Vargan command vessel undetected. A small team led by Lieutenant Carter had boarded the alien ship, captured its command codes, and downloaded its entire database before the Vargans even realized what was happening. 2 years had passed since the quarantine began. Earth now had a small but growing fleet of advanced ships. Admiral Mason had been promoted to overall commander of Earth's defense forces. Under his leadership, the first phase of resistance had begun. Operation Hornet's Nest is showing results. Mason told the Global Defense Council, "We've destroyed 7 Vargan mining operations across the solar system in the past month." The council members nodded with approval. The plan was working. Earth couldn't match the Concordat in direct battle, but they could make occupation painful and expensive. "What about the intelligence from the captured Vargan ship?" asked the council president. Mason displayed a star map on the large screen. "We've discovered something interesting. The Concordat is not the united force they pretended to be. 3 species dominate: the Vargans, the Kelthori, and the Movians. They use the Concordat's rules to control resource-rich worlds." "And the Jaxiri?" asked a council member. "They seemed friendly to us." "They are," Mason confirmed. "But they have little power. They're forced to go along with the dominant species." Lisa Winters, now Earth's intelligence director, stepped forward. "We've also made contact with a species called the Praxtori. They went through exactly what we're experiencing now, 300 years ago." This was news to everyone. "Another species is helping us?" the president asked. Lisa nodded. "They reached out after hearing about our resistance. They've been waiting for someone to stand up to the Concordat." "Can they help us fight?" Mason asked. "They're sending ships and technology," Lisa confirmed, "but they're scattered and few. Their homeworld was stripped of resources centuries ago." Dr. Reyes had been working day and night with her team. Using the Vargan database, they had made several breakthroughs. "We've improved our weapons systems," she reported. "And we've developed something the Concordat doesn't have, a device that can disrupt their gravity field drives." "Will it work?" Mason asked. "In theory," Reyes admitted. "We haven't tested it at full scale yet." Their meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. Commander Peters appeared on screen from her position at the Lunar Monitoring Station. "Admiral, we've detected a massive Concordat fleet gathering near Jupiter. At least 60 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts." The room fell silent. This was what they had feared. The Vargans were tired of the guerrilla attacks and had decided to crush Earth's resistance once and for all. "How long until they're ready to move?" Mason asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Peters replied. Mason turned to the council. "We need to accelerate our plans. We can't match them ship for ship, but we might have an advantage they don't expect." The next day, Mason met with his command staff aboard the space station. The tactical display showed the approaching Concordat fleet, a force large enough to overwhelm Earth's defenses. "We'll deploy our ships in these positions," Mason explained, highlighting areas around Earth. "The Vindication and our fastest vessels will engage from a distance, drawing their attention." "What about the Praxtori?" Carter asked. "They're sending ships, but they won't arrive in time," Lisa replied. "We're on our own for this battle." Dr. Reyes pointed to a position near the moon. We'll need to place the graviton cascade device here. If it works, it will disable their engines when they enter this zone. And if it doesn't? Peters asked. Mason's face was grim. Then we fight to the last ship. As the meeting ended, Lisa received a message from her Story contact. She read it twice, her eyes widening. Admiral, the Story have sent something else to help us. Information. She displayed a file on the screen. They provided access codes to the Concordats communication network. We can broadcast directly to every world in their territory. Mason stared at the screen. Can we verify this? Already done. Lisa confirmed. This is real. For the first time in days, Mason smiled. Then we have a new option. Before we fight, we'll tell the truth to the entire galaxy. Time was running out. The Concordat fleet moved closer to Earth each hour. Admiral Mason gathered his officers on the command deck of the space station. The tactical display showed 63 enemy ships approaching in formation. We have 27 combat-ready vessels, Carter reported, plus the graviton cascade device, if it works. Dr. Reyes looked tired but determined. The device is our best hope, but we've never tested it at this scale. Mason nodded. We'll proceed with both plans. Commander Peters, prepare the fleet for combat positions. Lisa, get your team ready to broadcast to the Concordat worlds. As everyone moved to their stations, Mason studied the enemy fleet. The Vargans had brought enough firepower to crush Earth completely. This would be humanity's greatest test. On the Concordat command ship, Supreme Commander Drazkor of the Vargans watched Earth grow larger on the view screen. The blue planet would soon be under their control. The humans have been troublesome, he told his officers, but they are no match for our fleet. His second-in-command looked nervous. Supreme Commander, reports indicate they have developed some advanced technology. Perhaps we should approach with caution. Drazkor laughed. Their ships are toys compared to ours. We will crush them and take their world. Back on Earth, the final preparations were complete. The graviton cascade device was positioned near the moon, hidden from Concordat sensors. Earth's small fleet formed a defensive line between the planet and the approaching enemy. Lisa Winters sat at her console, ready to broadcast. Her team had prepared videos showing the truth about the Concordat's corruption and the Vargans' illegal activities. These would be sent to every world in the galaxy. Broadcast ready, she reported. Mason took a deep breath. Send it. Across thousands of worlds, the signal broke through. Aliens of all kinds watched in shock as the evidence was presented. The Concordat's grand deception was revealed to all. In the Vargan fleet, confusion spread as the transmission reached their ships. Drazkor roared in anger. Block that signal. Prepare to attack. The Concordat fleet moved closer to Earth. Now was the moment of truth. Mason opened a channel to the approaching ships. His message was simple and direct. This is Admiral Alexander Mason of Earth. We have observed your actions, studied your weaknesses, and prepared accordingly. We offer one warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Galactic Concordat should understand one thing clearly. Do not *kick with Earth. On his command ship, Drazkor laughed. Such arrogance from a primitive species. All ships advance and destroy their defenses. The massive Concordat fleet moved forward. Earth's smaller ships held their positions, waiting. They're entering the graviton cascade range, Dr. Rice reported, her voice tense. Activating now. She pressed the control. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a wave of energy spread outward from the device. It was invisible to the naked eye, but sensors detected it racing toward the enemy fleet. The effect was immediate. Across the Concordat fleet, ships suddenly lost power to their engines. They drifted helplessly, unable to maneuver or attack. It worked, Carter shouted. Their propulsion systems are down. Mason didn't celebrate yet. What about their weapons? Still operational, Peters reported. But without engines, they can't aim effectively. The Concordat fleet was in chaos. Drazkor stared in disbelief as his mighty armada floated powerless. "Impossible," he whispered. "How could they have such technology?" Mason opened the channel again. "Supreme Commander Drazkor, your fleet is disabled. We could destroy you now, but we are not like you. We offer terms. Leave our solar system and never return. Acknowledge the independence of Earth and end the corrupt practices of the Concordat." Silence filled the communication channel. Then, finally, Drazkor's voice came through, filled with rage and fear. "This is not over, humans. You have no idea what forces you have challenged." Mason's reply was calm. "We understand exactly what we've done. We've shown the galaxy that the mighty Concordat can be defeated. That changes everything." As Earth's ships moved to surround the disabled Concordat fleet, communications came in from across the galaxy. Other species had seen the broadcast. The Praxtory ships arrived, followed by vessels from other worlds that had suffered under Concordat rule. The balance of power had shifted. Earth had won its first major victory. News of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy like fire. The mighty Concordat fleet, defeated by a juvenile species, was something no one had imagined possible. The Praxtory ships that arrived after the battle helped escort the Vargan fleet to the edge of the solar system. 3 months later, Earth was a different place. Ships from 20 alien worlds had arrived, not as conquerors, but as allies and traders. The planet buzzed with new energy and purpose. Admiral Mason stood in the newly built Galactic Embassy in Geneva. The large hall was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Some were species that had never visited Earth before. "The Concordat is in chaos," Lysa Winters reported. 6 more worlds have declared independence since our broadcast." Mason nodded. "And the Vargans? Retreating to their home systems. They've lost support from many of their allies. Captain Carter, recently promoted after his bravery during the battle, joined them. The Praxtory ambassador wants to meet with you. They're proposing a formal alliance." This was good news. The Praxtory had suffered under Concordat rule for centuries. Their knowledge and technology would be valuable as Earth moved forward. Dr. Reyes rushed into the room, her eyes bright with excitement. "Admiral, you need to see this." She handed him a data pad showing new scans of the Graviton Cascade device. "We figured out why it worked so well. It wasn't just the technology. It was how we implemented it. We combined ideas from 5 different Earth cultures to solve problems the Concordat never considered." Mason studied the data. "Can other species use this approach?" "That's the thing," Rice said. "Our adaptability isn't just biological. It's cultural. We take ideas from everywhere and combine them in new ways." This realization changed everything. Earth wasn't just fighting for its own survival anymore. It was offering a new way forward for the entire galaxy. The next day, Mason met with the Praxtory ambassador. The alien had gray skin and 4 eyes that blinked in alternating pairs. Despite the physical differences, Mason could see the same determination he felt in himself. "Your victory has given hope to many worlds," the ambassador said. "For too long, the Concordat's 3 dominant species have controlled everything. Now that control is breaking." "What happens next?" Mason asked. "War, possibly," the ambassador admitted. "The Vargans will not accept defeat easily, but they are not as powerful as they once were. With Earth's help, we can create a new alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than dominance." Mason considered this. A galaxy-wide conflict could be devastating. But allowing the Concordat to continue its corrupt practices wasn't acceptable either. "We need to give the Vargans a choice," Mason said finally. "Reform or face united opposition." Later that day, the Global Defense Council met to discuss Earth's next steps. The chamber was now expanded to include representatives from their new alien allies. "We have a decision to make," Mason told them. "Do we push for reform of the Concordat, or do we help build something entirely new?" The debate was long and passionate. Some argued for caution, fearing Vargan retaliation. Others pushed for bold action to create a new galactic order. Finally, The council president spoke. Admiral Mason, you led us through the crisis. What do you recommend? Mason stood. I believe we should form a new alliance, the Free Systems Coalition, open to all species who recognize the rights of others. We'll offer membership to any world that wants to join, including Concordat members willing to accept our principles. And if the Vargans attack again? Someone asked. Then we'll be ready, Mason answered. Earth has proven we can defend ourselves. Together with our allies, we're even stronger. The vote was unanimous. Earth would help lead the galaxy in a new direction. That evening, Mason stood alone on the balcony of the embassy, looking at the stars. So much had changed in such a short time. Earth had gone from an isolated world to a galactic power. The path ahead would not be easy, but humans had never shied away from challenges. A message came through on his communicator. The Story had detected Vargan ships gathering near a key trading post. The new coalition would face its first test sooner than expected. Mason smiled grimly. Round 2, he muttered. Let's see if they learned their lesson. 1 year after Earth's victory, representatives from over 200 worlds gathered in the massive new Galactic Assembly Hall built in orbit around Earth. The Free Systems Coalition had grown beyond anyone's expectations. World after world had abandoned the Concordat to join the new alliance. Admiral Mason, now serving as Earth's representative to the coalition, watched the proceedings with pride. The hall was filled with species of all shapes and sizes. Some breathed different air mixtures in special suits. Others floated in gravity fields, yet all were treated as equals. Quite a change from when we first met aliens, Lysa Winters said, standing beside him. Her universal translator had become the standard across the coalition, allowing all species to communicate without barriers. We've come a long way, Mason agreed. The Vargans had not gone quietly. 3 months earlier, they had launched an attack on a Story colony world. The battle had been fierce but short. Commander Peters had led the coalition defense fleet to victory, using tactics developed by Earth's military combined with technology from 6 different worlds. Now the Vargans were isolated. Their former allies had abandoned them. The Concordat still existed, but as a shadow of its former self. Reform movements had sprung up within its ranks, pushing for changes to match the coalition's open approach. Dr. Reyes had become a celebrity across the galaxy. Her research into human adaptability had opened new doors for all species. Working with scientists from dozens of worlds, she had created advances in medicine, energy, and transportation that benefited everyone. Today we signed the Terran Accords, announced the Story Prime Minister, who currently served as the coalition's chairperson. These principles will guide our cooperation for generations to come. The Terran Accords were largely based on Earth's own United Nations Charter, adapted for interstellar relations. They guaranteed the rights of all member worlds to self-governance, fair trade, and mutual defense. Lieutenant Carter, now captain of his own ship, stood with his crew at the back of the hall. His vessel, the UESC Horizon Aya, was preparing for a historic mission. They would be a first coalition ship to explore beyond known space, seeking new civilizations to invite into the growing alliance. Nervous? Mason asked him during a break in the proceedings. Carter smiled. Excited. We're going farther than any human has gone before. Find friends, not enemies, Mason advised. We have enough of the latter. Later that day, it was Mason's turn to address the assembly. As he stepped to the podium, he remembered the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. From first contact to betrayal to victory, and now leadership. 5 years ago, Earth was an isolated world, he began. We knew nothing of the galaxy beyond our own solar system. When the Concordat arrived, we welcomed them with open arms and open hearts. We trusted them. That trust was betrayed. The hall was silent, every being listening intently. We could have responded with hatred. We could have sought revenge. Instead, we chose a different path. We fought when necessary, but we always kept our goal in mind. A galaxy where all species are treated with respect. Mason looked around the room, making eye contact with delegates from dozens of worlds. The Vargans and their allies thought they could exploit us because we were young and inexperienced. They saw our differences as weaknesses, but what they failed to understand is that our differences make us stronger. Humans have always been adaptable. We take ideas from everywhere and combine them in new ways. He paused, letting his words sink in. That is what we offer to the galaxy now. Not dominance, but cooperation. Not uniformity, but diversity. Not oppression, but freedom. The assembly erupted in applause. Species that had once been enemies now stood together, united in a new vision for the future. As the ceremony concluded, Mason met with the young human Story diplomatic team preparing to join Captain Carter's mission. They were eager and idealistic, carrying the principles of the coalition to the stars. Remember, Mason told them, the lesson that brought us here. The words that have become our unofficial motto. The young diplomats nodded, knowing the phrase that had spread across the galaxy. The simple warning that had become a promise of a new beginning. Do not ** with Earth.